Coming right up on For Immediate Release, Trends for 2022 the communicators should keep their eyes on. Another fine podcast from the FIR Podcast Network.
This is For Immediate Release, the podcast for communicators.
Hey, Shell, it's great to be on the phone with you, metaphorically speaking, for another episode of For Immediate Release. How are you doing?
Great to be here with you too, and Happy New Year to you.
Likewise. It is great to be in 2022 after everything that went on in 2021. We hope it's going to be better, don't we? So we are here to talk about some interesting things in a new format with this new edition of the For Immediate Release podcast. This is a show that should be between 10 and 15 minutes in total, closer to 10, I suspect. That is a complement to the regular monthly show. And we've got some interesting stuff we're going to talk about, Shell, don't we?
We are going to be talking about trends that will be emerging or surging in 2022. A lot of them have been building up for the last year or more.
So our first topic is a hot one here in the UK, certainly. This is to do with the online safety bill, which is an attempt by the government to, in a sense, regulate what people are allowed to do and say online and the consequences that can arise, which currently there aren't many people that seem to have. Become law in the UK in 2022, I reckon, will do more to protect the individual rights of citizens than we have seen so far. It has gaps, and they are major. Encryption is one that people are not happy about, backdoors that might appear. It will need tweaking as it evolves, and it is a first shot. You've got to start somewhere, right? And communicators need to play a major role in supporting this, especially within organizations, to help employees of those organizations understand why this is important and behaviors that might need to shift even more so, given that there are going to be consequences. But it's also a big deal for the tech platforms. This is coming in 2022.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a TV commercial over here from Facebook in which they very blatantly and overtly ask for government regulation. So I suspect that legislators in Washington will be watching what happens with the online safety bill very closely. My first trend is that managers everywhere are going to need help figuring out how to manage hybrid teams. In 2020, when everyone who could be sent home was sent home, except for essential workers, everyone had to figure out how to manage remote teams. So what we'll see in 2022 will be some people working remote, some people working in the workplace, especially essential workers. Some workers will be remote just a couple days a week. Some will be full-time remote. How do you manage a cohesive team? Will remote workers feel marginalized, less involved, less visible? How will this mixed team work together? For internal communicators, managers have been a primary audience for some time, but we're really going to have to step up our game and help managers through this transition.
No question about that. Good one. So 2022 will be the biggest year for developing the metaverse, one of the hottest topics around right now. Big tech is betting that new generation hardware, such as smartphones and headsets that run the apps to transport users into enhanced or imaginary worlds, will open up the biggest new market in software since Apple introduced the iPhone in 2007. There are so much to talk about on this topic. It's hard to pick what's important, but here are two indicators of why 2022 will be the biggest year yet for developing the metaverse. We're talking the foundational elements of the metaverse. Google has a new team focusing on new operating systems for augmented reality. Think about this. Google is big with Android, the biggest operating system for mobile devices. That's not where this is for the metaverse. AR is one of the big deals here. According to job listings, Google is hiring heavily for this team. Second, Apple has been laying the groundwork for a major new product expected to be a high-end headset that mixes virtual reality and augmented reality, maybe this year. Two examples of what's coming in 2022.
We've been talking about AI for years, but 2022 is the year communicators are going to start using it in a big way. Services like Jarvis will become commonplace, inexpensive, and desirable. I've been experimenting a lot with Jarvis, which takes a little information that you provide and turns it into a full blog post or article. You still need to edit it, but it's a huge time saver and can even set the right tone in the article based on your input. You say you want this to be lighthearted, it is. You tell it to be dramatic, it will. But Jarvis is just one AI writing tool. There's AnyWord and a number of others. Then there's Atomic Reach and Article Forge, which sift through millions of articles to provide insights on things like when would be the best time to send out campaign emails or publish blog posts. Talkwalker and Brandwatch gather and analyze big data to help you develop a strategy based on data. And it's all getting really easy to use and cheap. And we're already seeing a surge in use, and it's going to hit its stride in 2022.
Yeah, I think the signs are clear that big things are coming with this, without doubt. Okay, more about the metaverse. More experimenting with metaverse experiences. This is not the foundation. This goes way beyond that. Examples, fashion retail. News literally today I saw H&M, the Swedish-based fashion retailer, is opening a space in the metaverse. And what's interesting is that you can buy virtual clothing and also get the same thing in the real store. And this to me is a differentiator, but a good example, not the only one, but big name retailer. Celebrity appeal. Paris Hilton. Haven't heard about Paris Hilton in years, but here she is, being a DJ in Roblox on New Year's Eve. That kind of celebrity appeal in this arena. You're going to see a lot more of that. Real virtual events, real/virtual event mirrors. Example. Again, New Year's Eve, New York City, one Times Square. The real one and a virtual one in Decentraland, with that ball opening up and all the stuff going on. It was mirrored there. We're going to see more of that. And then the real world industry, big industry, Boeing, airplane maker, are using some of the technologies, notably it has been reported, HoloLens headsets from Microsoft, to enable their engineers around the world to participate in designing airplanes. Now, there's some reports about there, not more detail than that, so there's lots of questions arising from that, but you're going to see more of that kind of experimenting. That's big scale experimenting, I would add. A key aspect in this is how information is shared about what all these organizations are doing and why it matters. So communicators should expect to seize opportunities here. There are nothing but opportunities in my view. Let's just wait now for all the critiques about the risks involved. But hey, I'm talking about opportunities.
And there's a ton of opportunities. And by the way, I think I heard that Paris Hilton got married recently, so she was in the news with that anyway. Internal communicators will be doing more work in building talent brands. We're in the midst of this great resignation. It's being driven by a variety of catalysts, but for companies, it only means one thing. We're losing people and we need to replace them. And that's tough with low unemployment and the employees in the driver's seat, able to select just the right job that meets their expectations. So companies are going to need to make extraordinary pitches to prospective employees. Recruiting teams are going to need communicators to help make that pitch, but that's just the end of the process. Our work to build culture and to expose that culture and our company's purpose and values and the like to recruits through social media and other channels needs to be very intentional. We're going to be heavily involved in establishing the talent brand.
That's a big one, Shell. I agree with you. That's going to be huge in 2022, I feel sure. So, workplace and society changes. We're seeing permanent shifts there as a consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic. And by the way, people I keep seeing talk about we're in post-pandemic times. We are not. This is still evolving, as is these shifts that we see. So 3 examples, very concisely, by the way. These aren't the only 3. They're just 3 I've picked here. Working from home is permanent. Think about that. For businesses, this means finding ways to meet people's most basic needs and taking steps to foster a more resilient workforce. Huge, huge changes. Culture, you mentioned, Shell, that resonates for this one too. The second one, searching before shopping. Yes, we know. We hear about this. People have been doing this for a long time. This is now mainstream. Everyone is doing this. Consumers are increasingly turning to Google Search to find which businesses have items in stock before venturing out to a store. Think about that. If you're a business and your website's out of date, or you're not using the right connections with your data, you're going to miss customers, because they're going to be looking not just do you have the product, but is it in stock? That's becoming increasingly important. The third one, online shopping is now the norm, and not just for groceries or from Amazon. For example, in the first 6 months of 2020, nearly 10% of cars were sold online in the US, compared with just 1% during all of 2018. Big changes coming.
Mentioned to you earlier that we're seeing TV commercials from Nissan touting Nissan at home, all about buying your car from home online and having the car delivered to your front door, or at least your driveway, maybe not your doorstep. Live streaming is going to explode, including social audio. Not that it hasn't been exploding, but streaming social audio is going to be a big part of this. That may not include Clubhouse. They've been on a big slide in recent months. Most of the cool kids have already left, and now it's a lot of hucksters. There are a few bright spots with intelligent conversation led by smart people who made a commitment to the platform. But we're also seeing Twitter Spaces pick up steam, and several others entering the marketplace. It's just going to add to the real-time streaming surge. I just joined a new one. It's iOS only. It's called Wisdom. And I was pitched by them. I hadn't heard of it until they pitched me to become what they call a top mentor, where I can supposedly monetize my expertise by helping people who are looking for information in areas of my expertise. I haven't used it yet, but I'm going to start this week and see what its prospects look like. But live video streaming is also going through a surge of growth based on the success that we saw last year and the year before. You put the two of them together, video and audio live streaming are going to hit a stride in 2022.
So connecting to something you said earlier about culture, this item here talks about culture, but in a slightly different way to corporate culture. This is real cultures. So the importance of knowing and understanding your audiences cannot be overstated these days, especially if you're connecting with people from multiple diverse cultures. It's always been so, but now it's an imperative at a time of fierce competition for the attention of those audiences, where you likely have only fleeting moments to get in. In tandem, make your brand and what you offer wholly relevant and of value to each of your audiences. There is no space for cookie-cutter communication anymore.
Wellbeing is going to become one of the biggest areas of focus in 2022, especially mental well-being and mental health. The last couple of years have been really hard on workers, and some companies have gone out of their way to offer new mental health resources. This is coming at a time when there's already been a public emphasis on mental health, on ending this taboo about talking about it. So companies are stepping into a bigger role. The chief operating officer where I work posted an item on LinkedIn about suicides in the construction industry. No other industry has more, and he's speaking out about it. We're gonna see more of that, with both mental health and physical health moving to the fore, and communicators are going to be heavily involved, obviously.
I see a lot of people talking about wellness, I must admit.
Yeah, and I've seen it on a number of trends and prediction lists and agree with that wholeheartedly. So this has been the first of our shorter one-topic discussions on FIR. We should have at least one more this week. You never know, maybe more than that. In the meantime, if you'd like to comment on these trends that we have presented, send an email to fircomments@gmail.com. Attach up to a 3-minute audio file. Comment on the FIR group on Facebook. Leave a comment in the show notes for this episode. And by the way, we'll talk about your comments on our regular monthly Hobson and Holtz Report. And that will be a 30 for this episode of For Immediate Release.